with the show and the Sunday nightclub. It's 4:30 kickoff Sunday. Rodney Parade, Newport County against Manchester United. Kieran Jones, the Newport County media content creator. You still pinching yourself?
I was watching that back, and it happened over a week ago, and it still doesn't feel real. And to be able to say that my club are hosting Manchester United in a competitive game, it's not a friendly. There is something very much up for stake here. It's surreal. You could tell me it as many times as you wanted to, but give it 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed you.
Well, one of the great things for me was as well on the night there with for Graham too. I mean, he's a Man United fan through and through. I mean, he's watched them all his life.
It's unbelievable. A few of the players are, of course, Will Evans mentioned he is. Scott Bennett is as well, regular starter for us. Nathan Wood is as well. There's a lot of United fans in that team. So for them to be able to essentially play the team of, their childhoods necessarily, the ones that they've always known for football, the ones that got them in love with football, it's just incredible. Personally, I'm not a United fan, so I don't have that exact emotional connection, but, it's still incredible to see.
Tell us about Newport as well now, then, with this in mind and what's happening and what it's been like ever since you got through on Tuesday.
I've never seen a buzz like it around the place. There's a situation where we had some really big games beforehand as well. We had Wrexham yesterday. Even the following week after this United game, we've got Swindon. So there's big league games with a lot of meaning to them. So to have this United game necessarily in the middle of all of it is just, it's brought a buzz around the city, and the stands have been built temporarily, of course, and they've sold out. The general sale for the tickets go out tomorrow, and it looks like they're not going to be available for any longer than an hour, the remaining ones that are left anyway.
So what's your capacity for this game?
So we obviously had Wrexham yesterday, and it was a sold-out crowd. We had the temporary stand-up, and it was just over 9,500. So it should be around there again.
Yeah, well, it'll be fantastic. So from the point of view now of how far Newport have come and what you're doing under Graham as well, is something, he's got everybody together. And yes, of course, this run is important, but it's important for the whole area now as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The buzz around the place, as I mentioned, it's something unlike I've ever seen around Newport. And there were kind of things of other people who were going to go to this Newport game for the sake of watching Man United, of course. But the hope is the kind of aura, I suppose, that we bring in terms of hosting United. Should we put in a good performance and everything, it could potentially get more people on the backs of watching us further than this United game or for the Wrexham game that we had previously. But yeah, of course, the Epic Cup game's massive, but we've obviously got the league to focus on and all that other stuff, which we've done incredibly well in our own right. So at the minute, everything's looking great.
Well, with that in mind, I mean, speaking there to Rick and others of your team from the other night too, they put themselves here in the shop window, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, it's one of those things where it's such a surreal thing and something that is not really you're used to being a lower tier fan of football. To have this scenario where you go, my team's hosting Man United, and there's all these people around that are there to watch United. It's something that I couldn't describe you with words, and I'm still in a reality of I'm thinking I'm going to wake up from a dream very soon.
I've got to mention yesterday, of course, because that was a big win too, wasn't it? Off the back of Tuesday night, that will have delighted everybody.
Oh, it's definitely a morale booster as well, isn't it? Of course, we went to their place just before Christmas and lost 2-0 there, and Graham Coughlin mentioned that he wanted that kind of revenge because we put in a pretty good performance for the most part when we went there in December, and it's one of those things where we put in that performance, and I heard him mention, we've heard him mention that he talks about this certain things that we don't do perfectly, whether we don't take our chances, or even the fans that say we aren't as tight at the back as we potentially would want to. But, like, we've put up an incredible start of the year. I think we're 7 games unbeaten now, which is again, you would have told me this 6 months ago, I would have said to you, what are you on about? It's one of those things where, I can repeat it over and over. It's so surreal and so amazing to be able to experience.
So what's the week got in store for you as a content creator then?
Oh, stupid amounts. I've never had more messages and all this other stuff going through. Of course, we're doing this chat ahead of the game. Earlier on, I was chatting on a separate kind of Twitter space podcast type thing. I've got an article that I've got to write. I've got pre-match coverage, just interviewing a Man United fan, talking about that. There's things that I want to kind of test and see how they work and see how they if they take on, if they catch on, if I can continue doing them, whether it be talking about players that could be key individuals. I'm sure I don't need to talk about that from a United perspective, but, for the United fans who may want to know more about Newport, it could be something that I could not educate, because I'm not exactly a football genius myself, but I'll give my own view on things anyway.
Oh, look, it's absolutely brilliant, and as you've mentioned there, the city and everything is buzzing, and it's nice to actually be the headline makers in football in Wales right now.
Oh, definitely, it's very nice. Going off the back of the win at Wrexham, we've got that kind of publicity from there, and then we're hosting United. Wrexham have their own game against Blackburn, of course, which is big in its own right, but no offense to Blackburn and everything, but you don't get much bigger than Man United, if bigger at all, especially within the FA Cup. So to actually be able to say, hey, we're the ones hosting United, we're the ones that have all this coverage and have all these eyes on us for a change, like you said, it's just incredible.
So which is it live on which channel?
BBC One, if I'm not mistaken. It's definitely televised, which I know is something we talked about before with, of course, non-league clubs not being televised. So it's nice to actually see that it is being streamed for people to watch.
I think it is BBC One, and I think it is great. And it's important, because I don't think that enough. They take what they call the safe option a lot of time, these television companies, where they think, oh, we don't want a side to be 3 or 4 down after 10 minutes, people will switch off. People don't switch off. If you're real football fans, you want to watch this thing play out.
Exactly, because where else are you going to see Newport County take on Manchester United? That isn't a Premier League fixture. That is it's one of the first times we've ever played them, especially within the modern era of football. So you're not going to be able to see this again. If it wouldn't have been televised, there would have been right uproar for it, and it should have been, because the fact that this tie is there, and even the fact that teams like Maidstone, for example, didn't get their televised fixtures up until recently. It's bizarre to me, because these teams, whether it be Newport, whether it be of Eastleigh or Maidstone, they don't get as much coverage, and you never really get to see them. And like you said, if you're a football fan that isn't dedicated to the Premier League and you want to watch the game, you've got to include these smaller clubs.
Have you had a chat yet with Graham? Because
I've not had a chat with him personally, but just outside of, I speak to the media manager and all this kind of stuff, and he mentions about how busy of a week he's going to have, the busiest of his life, as he says, and it's rightly so, because the amount of stuff that he, like I do personally, he'll be able to experiment with and be able to do to make sure that he can utilize this fixture and utilize this attention that we don't usually have. He's able to utilize it unlike you're really ever going to be able to. When are we ever going to be able to say that we host one of these massive clubs from the Premier League again? Of course, we've had Man City, Tottenham. We've been quite lucky in the draws we've had in the Cup in previous years, but it's been a good 5 years since then. So it's one of those things where we're able to experiment with things like Graham Koch, and I saw him at the end of the Wrexham game, and you can tell that he's absolutely in love with it, as much as you may see him on the kind of media and you think that he may be a guy that doesn't react like it. It was incredible to see.
That's fabulous. Look, Kieran, thank you very much indeed for joining us again tonight, and wish you well in your match to come over the weekend, and no doubt we'll be talking more of that in the show next weekend, as we cover all, of course, the football, as always, here on the Sunday Night Club.